I'm Sally Potter, and I'm about to respond to some reviews on Letterboxd concerning the film that I made called Orlando. The first one says, watched by Sarah. Orlando walked quickly through a maze so the favourite could run. Well, The Favourite, this is of course the film called The Favourite, which, as it happens, was shot on the same location as Orlando, with the same costume designer, and I would say was influenced by the modernist approach to history that Orlando was. But many films were influenced by Orlando. People don't often own up that they were. One should always consider imitation a form of flattery, of course. But I was told by one director of one film, and I won't say which it was, but it wasn't The Favourite, who said that every member of the crew was handed a copy of Orlando before they started work and said, make it like that. Watched by Henri. Henri says, I want to live inside of this dreamlike film. The production design made me want to shout for joy. Everything else is absorbing and delightful too. I'm not a period piece fanatic usually, but this transforms into something truly unique. I'm not a period piece fanatic either, and while making it, the instruction I gave to all the design departments, in fact to everyone in the crew, was not to think of it as a period piece, or as I used to call it, a bonnet picture, but rather a film about now in which people happen to be wearing the clothes of then. But everything we were dealing with was about now, not a fake version of history, an imagined version of history from the current perspective. I like the idea that somebody wants to live inside this dreamlike film. I certainly did. Nora. My favourite moment of this movie was the title card reading sex in capital letters that immediately preceded Billy Zane's entrance on a horse. What a legendary cut. Sally Potter is an icon. Yes, I had a lot of fun working out Billy Zane's entrance on a horse. And I had a lot of pleasure actually putting these monumentally big words throughout the cut, and it was a solution that came to me quite late on in the cutting room. It was not in the original script. When I realized it was a film that had these unfolding episodes, I said, which could have seemed like a narrative problem, I would turn that problem into an advantage by making it very clearly episodic and putting words at the front of each episode that actually posed a question. Was it really going to be about sex, or was it going to be about death, or was it going to be about something else? P.S. for that, Sally Potter is an icon. I thought you had to be dead to be an icon, but I'm definitely not dead. And of course, the film Orlando is about the not dead, about eternal life, immortality, a very lonely place. Carl Steiger. And with one searing performance as Elizabeth I, Quentin Crisp gives new meaning to the expression old queen. Well, at the first press conference in the Venice Film Festival where Orlando was premiered, somebody asked me why I had cast Quentin Crisp as Queen Elizabeth. And on the spur of the moment, I think I came up with a good one-liner that has served me in good stead ever since. I said, Quentin Crisp is the true Queen of England. So I never thought of him as an old queen, which is a little bit disparaging. I thought of him as true royalty in terms of everything his life was actually. And he was also incredible professional to work with at an advanced age. I loved him. I visited him in New York in his famous apartment where he never cleaned, ever, and said that dust doesn't show after you leave it for 2 years. Kate Scher. The labyrinth maze scene is so brilliant. Every time I watch, I have to stand up and get closer to the screen because every neuron in my brain is firing. I first saw this as a kid and it stayed with me like a fever dream until I found it again 20-ish years later. A pivotal film experience for me, for sure a favourite. Well, what's interesting about the maze scene is it was also not in the script. For a long time there were versions of how could I pass 100 years in a garden and so on, and then at the location, I saw that behind the house there was a maze, but we had been forbidden to use it as it was in poor condition. Finally, begging and pleading, I got permission to use it for 2 hours, as long as only myself, the cinematographer, and Tilda would be in it, in the maze itself. So I quickly ran round it, got somebody to film me to make sure the idea would work. And then we shot it very quickly, and it has become the scene that people often comment on or find is their favorite. And it was just a reminder to me that often you find the best bits in your film after you've done possibly years, as in this case, of planning something completely different. But if you're alert to the moment and what is in front of your eyes offering itself up to you and able to take it in that moment, that's when you get something really cinematically exciting. An anomaly. Nice. Sally Potter invented gender and Fleabag at the same damn time. A euphoric spiritual journey. Well, I must say that when I saw Fleabag for the first time, I did think, I wonder if she's seen Orlando. Of course, in fact, looks to the camera were not invented by Fleabag, and they weren't invented by me either. There was, for example, Alfie, or there were all of the Marx Brothers films who constantly do little asides to the camera. It's a long tradition that has in its roots the fourth wall in the theatre and somebody daring to break the fourth wall and address the audience directly. And it was a big key to making Orlando work as a film, was to find that complicity with the audience. And how I rehearsed it with Tilda was I got her to look at me and said, I am the camera. Now look at me, as if you're glancing in the camera. And when we found the tone of it and I laughed, we knew we'd found the right tone of her way to look, which was very, very skillfully done. And we had many laughs actually finding that what I called golden thread between the audience and the performer. Fran Hüpfner. Men, ... women, ... doesn't matter who you are, ... we are all clothes. Virginia Woolf's, in a way, thesis was not so much that we are clothes as that we perform, being men and women, and part of that performance is the outfit we wear, the clothes that we wear. And that then is who we become, or what we are seen as, and then we start to get treated in some subtle ways and some huge ways. So I like how that's written. Milky Way. Well beyond its time, brilliant and insightful in its discussion of gender. Wow, 3 exclamation marks. Also this and the favourite make me want to run through the halls of Hatfield House in a gown. Okay, back to that first comment again then. I was trying to make a cinematic equivalent of Virginia Woolf's proposition about being male and being female as a performance that has consequences. Orlando can no longer tolerate the pressures of being male, in particular to be kill or be killed, the ultimate sort of male sacrifice, and then finds she can scarcely tolerate the restraints and the limitations of living a life as a female. But the moment of change is seamless, because the moment of change is that this is a human, male, human, female, but human. Kevin. Beautifully shot, great music score and soundtrack choices, and as always a fantastic performance by Tilda Swinton. Orlando has a thoughtful look at gender identity and what it means to find your place in the world. That was quite ahead of its time when this film was first released in 1992. Music came very late in this, right towards the end of the edit when we'd long run out of money. And it started with me going into a studio and just recording my own, multi-tracking my own voice as a kind of ghostly sort of choir. Last one, Colette Arand. When Tilda Swinton gives you the eye, that's cinema. Yeah. Her face was a wonderful face to work with, and body. She's a top-to-toe actor, but her face, I never tired of looking with my camera, my still camera or movie camera through the lens, and she had an incredible understanding of how her face worked for the lens. And I think, yes, she's one of those people who loves to be photographed, to be filmed, and whoever's behind the camera loves to be behind the camera when she's on the other side of it too. Yeah, she was extraordinary. When you make a film, it's a long and arduous struggle. I'm in the middle of making one now, or developing one that's a long and arduous struggle. And it's very good with hindsight, so many years later, for people to have experienced a certain kind of seamlessness for something that was not seamless to make. it was untold number of obstacles and rejections, actually, to get it made. So many years later, to somehow get these responses that are full of pleasure and people have found themselves in the film or found an idea that excites them or nourishes them spiritually is extremely gratifying. It's lovely. Thank you. What nice reactions. I thought there was going to be something negative that I would need to respond to.